Hello there. Thanks for tuning in today to Fresh Catholic Podcast. For the next few weeks, I am going to be rebooting some past episodes. Simon and I are heading out on our traveling adventure. And so in the meantime, we wanted to represent some of our episodes that we think are very exceptional and people really enjoyed in the past. So if you've heard them before, have a listen again. If you haven't heard them yet, then have a listen, share with your friends, and see what you think. So in this reboot episode, I have Jose Pulido, who is a spokesperson for the Mary Foundation. He came and talked to us about his book, How to Evangelize Anyone. And first of all, Jose Pulido is a wonderful speaker. He's a public speaker, and you'll be able to tell that in this episode. But he just has a way about him that draws people to the Lord. And this is something that I think we can all do. We don't need to just rely on people higher up in the church. You know, we all have a way we can evangelize people without it being an aggressive, strange way to draw them to the Lord. So Jose Pulido is a perfect person to teach us how to evangelize anyone. And, you know, our ultimate goal is that everybody should become Catholic. I'm kidding, not kidding. So have a listen and share with your friends, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome. I'm Lori Balderas, and I'm so happy you're here. Not a big surprise, but I have another guest today. I'm once again excited and feel so honored that he's going to be sitting down with me. He's a very busy man, but I would like to do a little introduction about him. So my guest today is Jose Pulido, and he is a former atheist and Yale MBA graduate who became a pioneer in teaching super effective evangelization skills after a mystical encounter with the Holy Family. I can't wait to get to the bottom of that. His methods combine modern research with timeless wisdom of sacred tradition. In his book, How to Evangelize Anyone, which I have here, he shows Catholics how to dream like Joseph, talk like Mary, and make all things new like Jesus Christ. With this formula, we can experience incredible transformations in our ministries, organizations, and our lives to feel relief, joy, and peace. All things I'm personally looking for. Jose is a spokesman for the Mary Foundation, supporting their work in sharing sacramentals and evangelization materials throughout the world. He is also a senior advisor at Omnia Catholic, a social media ministry aimed at supporting young adult ministries. He is a frequent presenter on the University series in the Los Angeles area, a series aimed at supporting faith formation for adult Catholics. He is also a member of Fruitful Futures Project, a nonprofit dedicated to helping others find fruitfulness in their callings. Wow, that is a lot. Anyway, I'm very honored to have him here today, and so sit back and have a listen to my interview with Jose Pulido. So here I am with my guest, Jose Pulido. Thank you for coming today.
Yes, thank you for having me, Lori.
I just did this long intro about you, and at the end I said, wow.
Oh, really?
Because I was thinking that you have a lot on your plate.
Yes, my plate's big. I have a big appetite.
I see that. So I was just saying how much I appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to me and my listeners. I'm really excited about this. I always say that. My audience is like, Lori is always excited, but I am.
That's so important.
I have an exuberance for my guests.
Yeah, and excitement is good to spread.
Yes.
You have a choice about what you consume. You can either be down and stressed, or you can actually take a moment to treat yourself to something uplifting.
Right. And also when I choose my guests, I was just telling one of my future guests, I had my pre-interview with her yesterday, and I was saying, we get contacted by many people to be a guest, and I like a wide variety of guests. And I like to have people that I think not only am I going to be interested in what they're talking about, but that my audience will be, and that it will build the kingdom, as I call it. So, that's why I have a wide variety of guests, because I know my listeners have a wide variety of interests. So I am very interested in you and your book. Here's your new book. Hold it up and tell me what you were just telling me about this book.
Yes, that in the first 24 hours, it became a Catholic bestseller.
That's amazing. Bravo. And also you were saying this was the first time you've held it.
Yes. The Mary Foundation and I have been in just such a rush to get it out to people that, rightfully so, we prioritized the people who needed it. So this is actually the first time I see it.
That is very exciting. And I have to tell you, I went and picked them up today. They arrived today, just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
So we can be holding them. But one thing I really like about this book is, first of all, it's nice and small.
Yeah.
I like it. So it reminds me of when Bishop Barron gives out these books, like during Lent or Easter time. And these you can just put in your bag. You can carry them. They're very doable. I really like that about this book. So I was surprised when I got it and it was small. I thought, oh, I love these kind of books.
Yes. And I'm so joyful that it is that way. It feels light, because the idea is to help remove a burden regarding how we perceive sharing the faith.
Right.
To really remove that weight of angst, of pressure, of sort of like that, oh, are they going to punch me in the face feeling
Right.
in 4th of July or Thanksgiving? Because what we really
Right.
want, right? Because what we really want is, we want everyone in our church to dream like Joseph, talk like Mary, and make all things new like Jesus Christ.
Right.
And if we can dream, if we can talk, and if we can renew as the Holy Family does, then that will be beautiful and truthful evangelization.
Right. I love that. So first of all, I love evangelizing people. This is my way of evangelizing people, is to have this podcast and to have my website, which we have some series on there for people to gravitate to, which we'll get to in a minute. But I just wanted to start by asking you, because I know, this is your book, is How to Evangelize Anyone, which is a great title. But you took a turn and you were an atheist for a while. So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, were you raised Catholic and you turned away? And then it's in the intro I read, it said that the Holy Family inspired you to start this ministry. So tell me a little bit about your background, and then how you got, what happened? What with being an atheist? Tell me that story.
Absolutely. In the very beginning, I was born into a culturally Catholic family. And then right around, the start of high school, I was confronted with the problem of pain. And I think many people sort of are confronted with the problem of pain at one point or another in the spiritual journey. And I just sort of I couldn't comprehend pain and a Catholic worldview together. So then I embraced atheism, agnosticism. And while I was that, I just couldn't ignore the answer to certain questions. Like, could something come from nothing? And I think the answer to that is pretty plain, right? It's pretty understandable. So then through these sorts of questions and philosophy and logic, I made my way back to the church, kicking and screaming. I was not happy, but I was a logical Catholic. And then sort of after becoming a logical Catholic, then I started sort of like another journey. And it was in 2011 at my alma mater, George Washington University. And it sort of just starts at the beginning of the year when Father Greg Schaefer in the Newman Center says something that probably many Catholics have heard many times. It was the first time I heard a priest say it. And it was that the Eucharist is actually the body, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. And I had read it many times. I've seen many videos on it, but it was just different when he said it. And that really just goes to show just the power of the priesthood. That a priest can declare something that you might have heard many times over, but there's just some grace infused in there some authority infused in there that really helps you then make an emotional connection. And that's the thing. I was a logical Catholic whose heart hadn't started beating.
Mm.
So then that's when it started beating towards the Eucharist. Now, at George Washington, there were focus missionaries. And in the fall of 2011, I started connecting with a missionary called Bryce Garber. And I was sharing with him certain hesitations regarding having a devotion to the Blessed Mother. And I still remember this quote. He told me, you will never love her as much as her son loves her.
Mm-hmm.
So just floor it, right? And that sort of like made me feel relief about having a deeper connection with our Blessed Mother. So then my heart started to beat that way as well. And then in December time, again with Father Greg, I was entering into some discernment, and he suggested I do this novena to Saint Joseph. And for viewers out there, it's the EWTN novena, where each day is like a page,
Mm-hmm.
has a big thing. And I learned a lot about Saint Joseph and loved him. So then my heart started to beat that way. So then I had a connection with all the members of the Holy Family as individuals.
Mm.
It all came to a head in December 24th, 2011, Christmas Eve Mass, Midnight Mass. And I had an incredibly powerful experience there with the Holy Family. Basically, they saw and healed and answered some of the greatest pains and conflicts I had in my heart.
Mm.
And then from that, then, that very much affected how I viewed evangelization.
Interesting.
Yeah. The short of it is I was in the Gothic Cathedral in Barcelona, and yeah, I felt very separated from my family, and Satan was gloating like, oh, I separated you. You can never have a great family. And then at that point, I felt the presence of the Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph, and she explained to me that I have actually always been a member of the Holy Family.
Mm.
So I've always been part of the perfect family.
Right. Beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that though it was a personal message to me, like really anyone who's baptized is that if you believe, because in baptism, you're a member of the body of Christ. And, if you still believe that the Blessed Mother is your mom and St. Joseph is your dad. So we're all members of the Holy Family. And then there came a second trial in that Mass, which was you may be, like, again, from Satan, you may be a member of the Holy Family, but you'll never be able to love them because you're such a sinner.
Mm.
All these things you've done.
Oh, so this was like what Satan was telling you in your ear.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, I felt Mary and Joseph quite strongly. And it was another joyful message. And it was that as a member of the Holy Family, I have a right, I have an inheritance of the graces of Mary and Joseph. And I think that's important for everyone to hear because a lot of the times people focus on the question of like, when you're at church, do you feel loved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. The other question, though, is also important, which is, do you feel that when you're at church that you can love others?
Mm-hmm.
It's important to be convinced that we can be loved and that we can love. So that was also very important to me. And then there was a third trial. And that was Satan saying, again, same Mass. You may be in the Holy Family. You may be able to love with their help, but the church will never accept you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a soft spot because up to that point, I hadn't really found, except for the Newman Center, there wasn't really a church home for me. And this time, the message of the Blessed Mother and Joseph was very short, but very impactful. And it was, just give the church a chance. And that's important because, again, if I can say that I'm a member of the Holy Family, I have to also therefore admit that my fellow Catholics in the pews are too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So then finally, their love and truth shooed Satan away. And then I felt called to receive the Eucharist. Then again, the Eucharist is Jesus, right?
Right.
So then I felt Jesus in me and the love of the Holy Family outside of me. It's kind of like in the Gospel of John,
Mm-hmm.
in that, Last Supper homily. And then I went back, and then that affected me because then there was the fifth lesson. The fourth lesson was the Eucharist is real, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like truly. The fifth lesson happened after. And that was, I realized that if I'm to have a really good relationship with Saint Joseph, I have to be willing to see him in my dad.
Mm.
And if I'm to have a good relationship with my dad, I have to have a devotion to Saint Joseph. And the same goes for my mom and the Blessed Mother. And again, this is not to say like that that there aren't difficult situations out there, right? I think anybody that's been alive for more than 3 years knows that there are difficult situations. That is to say, though, that there is like a certain aspect of motherhood and fatherhood that is very important, right? And though biological parents can be earthen vessels, right, for sure, it's sort of like that idea of God saw inside of me someone who had many flaws as a member of the Holy Family. So I therefore need to see my parents that way, my brother and sister, everybody, right? And I find that to be a happier life. Now, how does that affect this book, right? And the idea is, when we're thinking about evangelization, I find that effective evangelization in difficult areas, right, is a lot less about attacking an idea or avoiding conflict, right? It's a lot less about that and more about just let's dream together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's discover each other. How can God clarify how we discover each other? How can we enjoy this discussion? Like, those are really powerful questions.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we get too much into the book, I just have a question because I want to clarify something. So when you had that encounter on Christmas Eve of 2011,
Yeah.
so you were no longer an atheist. You'd gone through that moment of your life and then you were coming out the other end.
Yeah.
So how long were you identifying as an atheist?
About 4 years or so.
And that was at what age were you?
Like 14 to 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally feel there's no this isn't like, anything set in stone, but just my own opinion is I feel like there's a moment of time where most Catholics drift off.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's from age 13 to 30 around in there.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them at their, whatever God's plan is for them, they come back.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that more and more. I'm very interested in that because I see a pattern of people. Now, I'm a convert. I became a Catholic when I was 49. So I wasn't raised Catholic. So I just think that everybody kind of goes through a questioning phase. And then I feel like God lets them kind of do, because we have free will and he kind of sends the rope out. And then I think he decides when he's going to draw the person back in. So you went through that phase and then, so you're telling me that because you really wrapped your mind around the fact that Jesus was in fact the that is him in the Eucharist.
Yeah.
That's what brought you back.
And that was a big factor.
Yeah, so that's how come you got away from being an atheist, was that's what drew you back, that fact.
It was like the logic that I couldn't escape,
Yeah.
that the universe really is more easily understood as a creation
Mm-hmm.
and such. And then after that, it became more of like Catholicism is remarkably logical.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of proofs and syllogisms for various things regarding the faith. So I was like a logical Catholic. But it took a while for my heart to beat.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started to beat with the Eucharist and the Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph. And it started then to rest in the home of the Holy Family.
Right. That's beautiful. So hold that thought. We're going to talk about the book, but we need to take a break.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll come back after this break. Be right back. Have you ever wanted to witness the miraculous and walk where saints have walked? This is your chance. Join me, Lori Balderas, host of Fresh Catholic Podcast, and Father Matthew Miguel, as we walk with you through Italy's most sacred sites. From the Eucharistic miracles of Lanciano and Orvieto to the peace of Assisi, your heart will be transformed by these extraordinary moments of grace. You'll walk the hallowed streets of Rome, step into the history of the Vatican, and witness the places where faith has flourished for centuries. Each stop deepens your journey. Each miracle renews your soul. We invite you to join us on an unforgettable, life-changing experience.
Join us and let your faith come alive in Italy.
And we're back. Okay, so I read this book. I'm very proud of myself because I'm not really a reader, but I've been reading more and more. So my listeners know that. But I did read it. And so first of all, again, I'm very interested in evangelizing people. And so it's very easy to read, I want to tell you. And I really appreciate it. I was telling Simon about it when we were driving. I was saying, that you set the foundation for this book and you say like why you're writing it and your formula. I feel like you have this formula. And then one of the things I like about it is it's kind of like a little workbook. It has places you can fill in, which I think is good because I'm a very visual person. And sometimes if you're just thinking about it, it's like you got to kind of write it down. So I like that's how it's set up. And so I'm reading along and I'm going, okay, so he has a formula, great. And he's got this way that you can really process how to do this formula and you write out the things and you can really wrap your mind around it and you're giving these scenarios. I really liked it. And then you get to the end and I was like, oh, this is the part I'm really interested in because you're talking about actually talking to people and actually like different scenarios of the people who would be rejective or how do you handle that?
Yeah.
So one of the things that really resonated with me is that because I wasn't raised Catholic, I was actually raised in no religion. And then I became a Christian in 1989. And it's because of a person I met and he was very Jesus-like. I knew nothing about religion, nothing. I knew there was a Jesus. I prayed, but I didn't know really what I was praying for or about. I would go, thank you, God, for this great day. That was my prayer growing up, So I didn't really know anything. And I met this gentleman, very Jesus-like, and I just wanted a piece of his action, I called it. Like, I liked what he was about.
What was the most, what came off as Jesus-like? Was
He was
calm?
very calm, very kind. I mean, I didn't even know what Jesus meant. I just meant like I met this gentleman and I was like, and I had made a statement to my ex-husband because I knew we were moving to a place that was very Christian and I knew his parents were very Christian. I said, I will not become Christian. So don't bother me about it. Okay. I was very resistant.
Yeah.
And so then I met Chandler West, this gentleman, and I just was like so taken with him. He was very magnetic because he was calm. He wasn't trying to push anything on me. We were at a dinner and I just remember thinking, I just liked everything about him. He was very magnetic. So now that I know Jesus, I look back and go, oh, he's very Jesus-like. So I think like he drew me in and I became Christian and I fell head over heels in love with Jesus. And I just loved him so much. But then I kind of when I moved back to this area, I couldn't find a church that I liked, and so I made my own religion. And so I know that's not a good thing, but at the time I didn't know.
At least you were engaging with
Yeah.
with
And
it.
so like
Yeah.
I was teaching my children what I thought. But then what happened when I got back here was then I was met with a lot of Christians, and they were so pushy to me. They were very pushy to me. That made me reject them. That made me turn even more away from not Jesus, not being Christian, but just I rejected them because they were so in my face about it. And one of the things I appreciate about your book is you're coming in, which I believe most Catholics do. I'm not going to say all Catholics because I don't know all Catholics,
Mhm.
but I would say the Catholics I know come in very soft,
Mhm.
and they come in in this soft way because ultimately it's Jesus that's drawing them in
Mhm.
his timing.
Mhm.
We might be a conduit. We might be a magnet. I pray every day, please help me to be a magnet to you, Lord.
Yeah.
You know, whatever I can do here as a human person to be a magnet, to draw people to you for your glory, that's what I want to do.
Mhm.
But I try to come in soft. I'm not going to beat people's head over it. I want to live my life in love with Jesus and in love with being Catholic. And if people want to talk to me about it or ask me about it, I will. I'll tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
But that's what I appreciated about this book, is that I was kind of waiting for that. I was hoping somewhere in the book it would be like, you know, these people that are resistant, like, how do you handle that? How do you approach that? Because I feel like that's what we as Catholics get challenged with a lot.
Yeah.
And we need to have the answers, and they're the answers. They're not your answers, my answers. They're the answer.
Yeah.
It's because this is what Jesus wanted. This is how God created things.
Mhm.
Who are we to second guess God?
Yeah.
That's why I love people that are firm in their faith. And it's not that you want to be combative or hateful, or, you know, we get labeled with a lot of things and a lot of judgment. But ultimately, I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, if it's what God's plan was, or it's what Jesus wants us to do, that's what I'm going to do. And if y'all are mad about it, maybe go read the Bible, or maybe have an open mind and heart to it to see why it is the way it is.
Yeah.
Because it's perfect.
It is.
Because God is perfect.
Yeah.
We're not.
Exactly. God is perfect. We're not.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Let's put that on a t-shirt. God is
That
perfect.
loves on the
We are not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like especially when regarding, let's say, you're getting together with family, and maybe you know, the Catholic person is gonna go to daily mass, right? Someone says, "Why are you going to mass again? You're wasting your time. Coming in very hot," right? It's like, what is a good response, right? And it's like, what if and you responded with heart and value, right? You know, going to mass makes me feel peace, and I really value connection.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, what are they going to say?
Like,
Are they going to be mad at you about that? Like, they could come back with you, but you've come in with this loving, kind
yeah,
response. So what are they going to do? Like, it
exactly.
diffuses it, I would imagine.
Correct. It diffuses it. And in most cases, it almost certainly totally diffuses it,
Right.
because we're totally changing the perspective. And we're also saying, though my going to mass may have triggered you to feel really negative in some way, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to share about me so that we can have a better connection,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can understand this thing. Other great apologetics, my favorite phrases are, "You're right, and I don't know." Like, fantastic things to say. Because because the person who's positing an impediment to being Catholic, um, one, they would never consider you saying, "I don't know."
Uh-huh.
But then you say it, and it's sort of like, I thought we were gonna fight,
Right.
but I guess we're not.
Again, it's diffusing it.
Diffusing it.
Right.
And I don't know is particularly helpful, because then you could sort of like invest those 10 minutes that would have been fighting into giving the other person a good listening to.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. Where did that question come from? Tell me about it.
Right.
And you can spend like the whole 10, 15 minutes just understanding them. Now you have a lot of information. Maybe the question even changed. You get the real question.
Right.
And it's like, hey, I gotta go, but how about we have coffee a week from now and discuss that?
Right.
Then you can go research. The church is a treasure trove of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. So now you're ready. But again, the most important phrase is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know leads to coffee.
Right.
You're right is also very powerful. Like, so much of this is remembering that you actually love that person.
Right.
Yeah, like my favorite, one of the favorite things I put here is a quote from the Roman Catechism. Love that thing. The Roman Catechism is from 1566 and is the gold standard for tradition. So all you rad trads watching this is for you.
Rad trads. I like it.
Right. So this is actually from Preface 10. The whole concern of doctrine and its teaching must be directed to the love that never ends. Whether something is proposed for belief, for hope, or for action, the love of our Lord must always be made accessible, so that anyone can see that all the works of perfect Christian virtue spring from love and have no other objective than to arrive at love.
Beautiful.
Right? So it's sort of like when we're thinking about, again, we have a lot of things to confront in society,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of evils, a lot of wrongs. So what this quotation reminds us, especially from something that we can really rely on as authoritatively the church tradition, is that though there may be great evil out there in ideas and debates and discussions, etc., fundamentally we must start with love in our hearts before engaging that person. And as we're conversing, we should have love as an end goal while we're sharing the faith. How can we share the truth so that it is healing to that person? How can we build up that person? Something that strikes me about our Lord is he has used scripture, like in the Bible, right? There's at least one circumstance where he uses scripture to build someone up. It's like, how often do you hear that? It's like, hey, you should learn your Bible in apologetics so you can build someone up. So you can tell them, hey, you're right. The Bible says here that you're right. Totally different approach. Can this work? So I went to graduate school at Yale, and not a Catholic school. And I brought about 10% of the Yale MBA class to a 6-hour Easter party.
Mm.
And
6-hour Easter party.
yeah, Father Joachim from the Dominicans was there in a full habit. The only things that were not invited were marshmallow peeps, because I wanted them to know that we were celebrating a historical event.
Well, besides, who
cultural?
really likes marshmallow peeps? I don't care for them, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and RFK's HHS. These marshmallow peeps actually are not even the same now. No food coloring. So, anywho, like, they attended, and I shared with them the gospel in words they could understand. Right, like a historical event occurred that meant that God became man and died so that you, myself, all of us may have a shot at a perfect relationship with God, each other, and even ourselves. And that's what we're remembering today, because he came back to life. And of course, like, most of them were not even Christian.
Mm.
So following that very short address, then we had great conversation, and many of them started to attend church. Like, start with love, end with love. So important. Dream, talk, and renew, as the Holy Family does. So important. When you look at evangelization that way, it's really an opportunity, an invitation to really make your life more flavorful, more joyful, more exciting.
Right. I also believe that because I'm going to get to something in after our next break, but one of the things I often think about is when I am out in the world now as a devout Catholic,
Mhm.
you know, like I was telling you when you got here, you brought us these little medals, and I said I'm going to put it on my chain of medals because I wear them, and they are a conversation starter. You know,
Mhm.
people will say, "Oh, you know, I mean, I'm wearing a crucifix, so that's the universal sign of I'm a Catholic."
Yeah.
You know, and so like, oops,
Sorry, I was crossing my
it's
side.
okay. So, um, I wear these, and then the medals, people always want to know what they are. And I
Yep.
tell them, well, why do you wear those? And I tell them. So it's a conversation starter. But I mean, there are people that's a very interesting way to evangelize because you're just giving some facts and some knowledge about like what I'm doing personally.
Yeah.
But I also think there's people where you have opportunities. Like we had a client one time, and you know where this statement I'm sure you've heard. I used to be Catholic. Okay.
Mhm.
And I'll say, "Oh gosh, what happened?" You know, that's how I approach it. And they go, "Oh, well, I just don't go anymore because you know," and they have like a list of
Yeah.
reasons, and you know, there's the sex scandals, or they didn't like the homily, or they didn't like the church, or they didn't like the choir, or whatever. And I go, "Oh, gee, that's too bad because I love being Catholic. I can't imagine not being Catholic,
Yeah.
you know?" And they go, "Oh." You know, and so this gentleman, I said, "Gosh, you know, when was the last time you came to Mass?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know. It's been like 20 years." And I said, "Well, I'm personally inviting you to our church because I'd love for you to give it another try. Will you please give it a try and come to my Mass? And I stand at the door and I welcome you. Would you come?"
Mm.
Well, you know, he kind of grumble, and he ended up coming.
He came.
He
Yeah.
came.
That's
And
good.
then not only did he come, but he came a couple weeks later and brought his mother.
Oh, hot dog, twofer. That's good.
know.
That's really good,
I
Lori.
know. So I just invited him to come and said, "Could you give it another try?"
Yeah.
You know, and also to acknowledge people when they have a bad experience or when they have something, to not make light of it. Like in his case, where I was like, "Oh gosh, you know, like what happened?" But I was curious. And I think he did probably have some things that really upset him about the church.
Mhm.
But what we have to remember is we can't be mad at God and the church. There's the humans in the church that probably mucked it up for you,
Mhm.
you know, so let's give it another try,
Yeah.
or let's give it another chance, and not, you know, throw everything out because of what one person did or a group of people did, because they are human, and humans are sinners and make big mistakes. So I think there's those kinds of people to evangelize. And it's like kind of, I don't want to say it's easy. It's just kind of like living your life. They're observing you. They're saying, "Oh gosh, you know, she seems very happy and she seems very content in her religion. And man, you know, she goes to Mass every day. You know, she must really love it." And, you know, it's true. This is my life. It's a lifestyle now. It's not I don't turn it off and on. It's all day, every day, you know, and I love it. And I can't imagine ever eliminating the Lord from my life,
Correct.
you know, and he drew me in exactly when he knew I needed it the most. And so I think there's that way to evangelize. But what I want to talk about next is, you know, first of all, I love what you're saying about starting with love and ending with love, because that's what Jesus is all about. And like I always think, like, how would he handle this situation? What would he say? And I often say on my podcast that Jesus was a beautiful being, but he also was firm,
Yeah.
and he also didn't mess around.
Correct.
And contrary to what a lot of people who don't know Jesus very well think, is that he loved all sinners and was fine with everybody. And that's not true.
Correct.
He loves all of us. He doesn't love our sin.
Correct.
He loves us
Yeah.
so much that he can't bear when we are going off the rails, or when we're allowing Satan to get in our head. Again, we have free will. Sometimes he allows things to happen so that we will learn a lesson, or we'll get closer to him, or we'll rely on him. I mean, to me, that's the ultimate reason of why we go through our trials,
Yeah.
is so that we rely solely on him and look to God and not other humans, you know, for our necessities. It's him. It's all about him. So I just think there's certain people that we're able to talk to and like kind of like make an impression on. But then there's the ones that are really far the other direction,
Yeah.
and really challenging, or that are really, hostile and aggressive to Catholics and violent even.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about that when we come back.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, that's a lot. I know.
Very important. I think people are at the edge of their seat.
I know. I am too. Okay. So we'll be right back. Let me tell you about all things Fresh Catholic. So buckle up. We have a podcast with weekly topic episodes and Fresh Catholic Daily, the daily Mass readings, on all platforms and YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review. That would really help. Our website, freshcatholic.com, has an online store with merchandise and coffee, a blog, comics, info about our pilgrimage to Italy in September of this Jubilee year, and Fresh Catholic courses with educator Charles Merritt, including the Hail Mary, the Our Father, Sin, Sacraments and Grace, Advent, Angels, and Virtues. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Fresh Catholic with short videos every day. Email me at lori@freshcatholic.com. I'd love to hear from you. And please consider becoming a Patreon or sponsor to help support our mission of drawing people to the faith or back to the faith. Phew! Spread the word and join the fun. Thanks so much. Bye. And we're back. So, yes, the audience is on the edge of their seat. No, the reason I'm bringing this up particularly is not, I don't want to say, because I was saying that sometimes people are violent. Obviously, we have martyrs.
Yeah.
Obviously, people throughout history, including our beautiful Jesus, have been just tortured and everything. And it's just, Simon bought me a book for Christmas. It's a saint a day. It's beautiful. It's very thick. And he said to me, do you know all the saints so far? I said, no, I guess but the thing that is the thread is that they had such a devotion to our Lord, and they were fiercely devoted to him, and they just weren't going to fall for anything. And so much so that they dreadfully and horrifically would lose their lives, or some of them would go through horrible things,
Yeah.
But that's just, that's the reality. But Catholics, I feel, are so targeted, and it's fascinating to me. It's almost like people who target Catholics, it's fine if you're targeting a Catholic, you can't target anybody else, but those Catholics, they're open season.
Yeah.
And it's very odd to me because, again, like, I became Catholic. I love it so much. I don't know why people don't like it. I don't understand it. I can't wrap my mind around it. It's like, it makes me tilt my head every time. It makes me cry. I cry a lot about it
Yeah.
because I just, I wish people would stop and listen and almost be put in a very beautiful little chapel
Yeah.
and like just hear the truth of the Catholic faith, because it is so beautiful. But then you get these people, I'm saying this because there's two people particularly in our family
Yeah.
that are very opposed to this religion.
Okay.
And I handle it one way, and it's the only way I kind of can handle it. And I pray for them every day. One is not Catholic and one is.
Mhm.
And so it's very stressful to me, and it's very troubling to me. And it's like, I would love nothing more than for them to, I feel like they have this angry armor on, like with spikes sticking out, and they
Yeah.
want nothing to do with any of it. And so the way I handle it is to, again, be firm, be firm but loving about it,
Mhm.
and kind of what I pray about for myself is that it won't get in under my skin,
Yeah.
and then I put up boundaries about it,
Mhm.
because it's very hurtful.
Very
It's very harmful, especially with something that I love and value so much, and to be mocked for it.
It's your everyday.
Yeah, to be
Every day you're
mocked and
actively Catholic.
attacked about it and undermined about it. It's very sad,
Sad.
because the people that are doing this, I love both of them very much. And I wish they didn't have this attitude. But those are the people where it's like,
Mm.
I don't know, like, I think this formula could still work, except for they don't even want to hear it. Like I'm saying, the other group we talked about before the break were the people where they're kind of like, oh, or their ears kind of perk up, or they're
Yeah.
kind of like, whether they're willing or not, they're kind of willing. They're kind of like, huh, what's this lady about? Let me, like I'm interested. And they kind of are hesitant, but they're not aggressively just like,
Yeah.
again, mocking, bashing.
Mhm.
How do you deal with those people?
Yeah.
Like, do we kind of give them a, yeah, we love them. How she said we
yeah,
love
but
them.
I'm like really excited to love them too.
Yeah.
Like because in this book I have like a story where I was meeting in my first job. I had a lot of networking to do. I went to a lot of events, and this gentleman was a PhD level scientist, worked in pharma, and
Oh, yeah, I love that story.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
and we shook hands, and the first thing we said was, "Hello, my name is blah blah blah."
Mhm.
And then somehow he found out I was Catholic, and his response to that was, eh, "I could never be religious, especially Catholic, because of how the church treats science."
Mm.
And then a mere 7 minute later or so, right? He says, "You know, Jose, if I were to be religious, it would have to be Catholic because of how the church treats science." A complete 180 reversal.
Yeah,
Even using the same exact sentence structure.
right.
And the reason is I gave him a good listening to. Like thoroughly understood him. To the point where he felt safe enough to then bring up a document that the Conference of Bishops from the UK wrote on a particular topic of scientific research. I know you haven't read that, Lori.
No.
I haven't read that either. None of you have read it. This person read it, and he brought it up in a conversation that started off with him saying why he could never be Catholic. And now he brought up this obscure document to say, hey, maybe I should. And and that's the thing, when people like sort of like say like, they're really aggressive, give them a good listening to. Now, sometimes giving a good listening to doesn't help, right? Because there's just a lot of strong feelings, especially if there's like an objectively traumatic wound, right? And at that point, you want to deepen the conversation regarding safe things. You could talk about cookies and you can eat them, and you could just say they're sweet, right? Or whatever. But you could make it go deeper. You could say, yeah, this is my grandmother's recipe from this country. And I feel connected to that recipe because of this value or that other value or something like that. So now you're having a really profound conversation about cookies. So now you're talking about emotions and values and reasoning regarding something. That makes it a lot easier to then talk about other things. Maybe a book, maybe even politics. And then no matter how big the wall's up, if you have proven that you are an excellent person to have masterful conversation with regarding cookies, history, politics, whatever, where we can get to know your personality and your values, and you can draw that out in others as well, then eventually they're the ones who are going to bring up religion. And how wonderful, because they're probably going to bring it up in the best way possible. And I know a lot of you are going to say, no, Jose, that's not the best way. Like the best way possible is they just start sort of like venting.
Mm.
That's awesome. And here's why.
No, I agree with that. I'm a big venter. I believe in venting. I think that the two people I'm talking about, they don't like I said, they just don't want to have anything to do with it. And so there's no conversation.
Exactly.
And so that's where I've put like the boundary of like when there's the mocking or the aggression or the, just kind of making fun of it and just downplaying it or whatever. I've just said, I've been firm with like, please don't say that, or this is, would you like to know about why we're doing this or why that is?
That's great.
Yeah. And then they don't. They don't want to know, these two people. But I think that's how I've approached it, because it's, a lot of it, I agree, where there's people that struggle, they have a history, they have a wound, they have a hurt. I can see where, these two people in particular, where their issues are, um, which I think is very sad, because I think, who better than to heal them than the Lord? But I do believe it's in his timing. I do believe that Satan tries to get people, to have these angry, aggressive thoughts, whether it be about religion or other things, to have because he's the divider. The Lord is the
Unite.
uniter.
Yeah.
And like I pray every day and I say, Lord, please unite where Satan is dividing,
Exactly.
yeah. So I think I love what you're saying about, again, like kind of having an answer. I think being firm, not, and when I say firm, I don't mean like beating him over the head. It's more like, no, you're stepping over a line, and that's hurting me, and I love this, and I would like to talk to you about it. Let's, like you're saying, like, let's have a conversation. If it's not now, maybe later. I'd love to help you find some answers to these questions
Yeah.
that you have, or these issues where, you've been hurt. Like, tell me about that, because I do think that is a really good way, because they might be holding on to something that I don't want to say is easily fixed, certainly not, but something that could be talked through, that they're holding on to. And again, coming at it with love. Also, I believe that a lot of people are misinformed. They've been lied to by other people, maybe on purpose or not. Sometimes
Yeah.
people are teaching the wrong thing, the incorrect thing. It's not factual, and a person gets that in their head, and they think one thing, and it's not even a thing. And it's like, oh, if you said that out loud, I would be able to tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's coming at it with love, because, I think I try to also think, what would Jesus do? But like, how would he handle something if somebody's coming at him? Like, what would his response be?
His response. Yeah. I think like in all situations, right? So one thing that we're looking for is for people to know your emotions and your values. So even in a situation where someone's like very sarcastic or sort of like maybe belligerent, whatever, right? If they know how you feel about something or what values you have regarding other things, then they are far more likely to want to have that religious conversation. Because we need to prove ourselves in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel sad for people who, have these walls up. And again, it's kind of up to the Lord. I was just told a story today by our youth minister, and they just went to the Congress, and she was telling a story about a boy who was very resistant. He's been really resistant to going to all the events they do in the catechism, and he ended up going. And long story short, his favorite part was adoration.
Yeah.
And he had
How was
asked,
that?
he said, well, he kind of very begrudgingly went up to her at one point and said, well, that retreat that you had a month ago, did they have adoration at the retreat? And she goes, yeah, we had a really good adoration. He goes, oh, well, that was my favorite part of this. So I've
Now we have an
found,
adorer.
yes, I thought that was beautiful.
It is.
And I have been told by many, many people that when teenagers in particular go to these retreats or go to adoration or the Blessed Sacrament is presented to them, it's life-changing to them.
It is.
I think that's miraculous.
Yeah, indeed. It's the Lord himself.
Right. But I mean, you would
providing.
think they would
Yeah.
have that wall up, but it's him. It's him doing it.
Yeah.
We're not doing it. He's drawing them in.
Mm.
And I think that is just amazing
It is.
and miraculous.
It is. Like a lot of when it comes to like adoration or rosary or scripture reading, all those things are wonderful for an infinite number of reasons. And I sincerely hope that, audience, when you pick up this book, that you'll look through it sort of to learn ways to invite people to adoration. And the best way is sort of like how that boy shared what he felt,
Right.
what his preference was. That we can do the same regarding our own experience of the faith.
Right.
I frequently coach people whose adult children have left the faith, or even adult grandchildren have left the faith. And almost always it's because the children, now adults, right, didn't learn key things from their parents. And the key things were essentially, how do my parents feel emotionally when they're doing something Catholic? Like, what emotion are you feeling when you're going through the rosary? And what values? Like, what values resonate in, let's say, my dad when he's leading us to go to Sunday Mass? If they can't write down on paper the emotions, like accurately, and the values, then they didn't actually learn why you were Catholic.
Mm.
And this book helps you share that. Now, of course, this is great news and also hard news. It's good news because it's like, wow, it turns out that you are someone with a lot of dignity. You're a treasure. And what's in here and here is an enormous piece of the puzzle, right? Very important. The difficult news is that also means you have to have a certain amount of self-love. Because if you have a negative way of viewing yourself, and now your task is, I need to share how I feel about the rosary and why I value it, there's a contradiction there. That's like, please take this book as an opportunity to dig deep inside, to find the treasures that will help the people you love discover the beauty in the faith. And then really value yourself, value that person through the filter that is God. That's what we need to do.
Right. And I also agree with, well, there's a couple things. So I'm also under the impression, and I think this is very true, that there's so many people that were raised in the faith that don't know why they're doing what they're doing because their parents didn't explain it to them. They just, you're going to do it. This is what we do. And that's that. That's one reason I started this ministry, and we have our series on my website, because we want to explain things to people and break them down better, because the more you know, then you can teach it to your children and not always rely on other people to teach them. Like you're saying, in the home, the Holy Family is a great guide for a family, Joseph, Mary, Jesus, and how can we incorporate their model into our family, but knowing why we're doing what we're doing, teaching our children why, like explaining, say, this is why we're doing this. This is what's this for. Because everything in the church, there's a reason.
Yeah.
Everything. That's one thing I love about the Catholic faith.
There is a reason.
And it's come from a reason. It's like everything, it goes back to something. It's not like, well, this guy just decided to do this and that's why we do it, or that painting over there is just because we don't know why it's just over there. Everything has a reason. And the other thing, which I really appreciated that you just said, is as parents and grandparents, we need to say how we feel about things, because they should know.
Exactly.
Like, we should be able to say, like, I don't know if you're a parent, but when you're a parent and your child, is upset, or there's something like, right now, my daughter is having a struggle, and Simon and I were discussing it last night, and I said, I can just get a sense. I know when things aren't okay. I can just get a sense of her, and because I'm her mother,
Yeah.
and I know, and we have to be able to know why our spouse or our children or the people around us, like, what are they feeling? How are they feeling? We should be able to do that without like spilling our guts to everybody. It's good, especially for our close family, that people know, oh, well, mom's excited to go to mass every day. This is her thing. She's
Yeah.
excited. I mean, they should have a sense of that.
They should have a sense of
Yeah.
that.
And I think that's really good. And yeah, so I think that's one way that we can teach our children to be more into the faith. I do think people veer off for whatever reason. I think there's a lot of reasons. But then it's the Lord, that draws them back. And then hopefully when they come back, they're, even more intense in their faith.
Absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
it's a magnet to other people.
Correct. And I love how you said people should know how we feel without us spilling our guts, like drinking water, right? So I take a sip, I feel refreshed. I didn't go into like a paragraph regarding how I was thirsty and stuff like that. Just said, I'm refreshed. I feel
Yeah.
refreshed.
Right.
When I receive the Eucharist, I feel joy.
Right.
Very brief. It doesn't have to be a lot of stuff, but people need to know where is that personal connection. And then the other side of the coin is values. Like, what is the objective reality we're upholding? It's like, I received the Eucharist because I value justice. And again, if it's not to say that you couldn't bring up the catechism and go through all the logical points.
Right.
The
facts.
The facts.
Mm-hmm.
What I am trying to say is say all that after that kickoff sentence.
Right.
I love adoration because I value justice.
Right.
Now you got people's attention. People can understand you because they know what justice means, or at least they have an idea. Then go into the truth. Then go into the bullet points. It's like, wow, this person, Lori, this person, Jose, has an actual personal connection, whether through values or emotion, to this very real rosary.
Right.
Once people see that, they can hear you talk about it for like 2-3 hours.
Well, and I feel like the more, again, if we talk and say our emotions to our children or our spouse or the people around us, then they understand why, instead of like, oh, I have to go to mass. Oh, I have to do, it's like having that joy, having those, about different things, then that draws people in,
Exactly. And it's also very satisfying and healing for them.
Right.
That's the key thing. It's both. It's satisfying and healing for both people.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is evangelizing adult children, etc., when that someone shares about their feelings or their values, that adult child isn't just learning about the evangelist; they're actually learning about themselves.
Right.
Because parents are perpetually sort of like a personal point of reference. It's like, I'm learning about dad, I'm learning about me.
Right.
That would solve a ton of issues, right?
Right.
And then the other part is, even if you're not evangelizing your own children, grandchildren, you're just evangelizing your neighbor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feelings and values are like easy mode. Because they are easily understandable. Zero catechesis needed to understand that Lori's feeling sad or feeling joyful or feeling at ease or feeling angry. You don't need catechesis for that.
Mm-hmm.
Same with values. Oh, Lori values connection and she values faith and she values relationship. I don't need catechesis to understand that. So with those two very powerful positions of sharing emotions and sharing values, you have a really strong bridge to carry that conversation. And again, it's how can it be life-giving for all of us?
Right.
How can we all feel respected, affirmed, and loved? That's important.
Right. Well, Jose, I could talk to you for days on end, but we have to finish this. So poor Simon.
Me too. I could talk to you for days.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll have you come back.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything before I let you go that you didn't get to say that you would like to say?
Yes, absolutely. First, I really want to share my gratitude to the Mary Foundation, the publisher of this book. Everyone there and we really value generosity and sharing the faith and stuff like that. So it was a natural partnership. Please go to catholicity.com to order the book, right?
And we'll put a link in the show notes.
Exactly. And then the other part is I'm highly accessible. Whether it's for, one-on-one evangelization coaching or retreats, or I also do catechetical support, retreats or workshops. So you can find me on Instagram, share.faith.now, or via email, which I'll give to Lori to also post.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So grab this book, get them for your friends and your family. Get a stack. They're small.
They are designed to be given away.
I know. I love that. I know they are. So anyway, thank you so much for coming. This has been a pleasure. And I really know you're a busy guy, so I feel very honored that you took time to come to Fresh Catholic.
Oh, for sure. And I feel honored as well. Like, this is such a great connection we established.
Good, good. You're welcome. Thanks for coming today. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Love you. Bye.